Knott's Berry Farm is home to the most historical and oldest theme park trains in the country, with the trains themselves being built in 1881 and the railroad being built in 1952, 3 years before Disneyland was even open. They are by far the oldest and most historical theme park trains out there. Beginning in the mid-1920s, the Knott family sold berries, berry preserves, and pies from a roadside stand along State Route 39. In 1934, the Knotts began selling fried chicken dinners in a tea room on the property, later called Mrs. Knott's Chicken Dinner Restaurant. The dinners soon became a major tourist draw, and the Knotts built several shops and other attractions to entertain visitors while waiting for a seat in the restaurant. The restaurant was so popular that by 1940, the restaurant would serve up to 4,000 dinners on Sunday evenings. Lines would frequently stretch up the highway from the restaurant's front door. So, to entertain guests who sometimes had to wait up to 3 hours to get a table at this restaurant, Walter Knott, the owner of the restaurant and the founder, created Ghost Town, which would essentially be Knott's version of an old Western village. The Ghost Town included many things when it first opened. These things ranged from a livery stable to a stagecoach ride to even a bottle house and a music hall. On top of this, there would even be a horse show and a blacksmith. A fun fact is that Knott actually went to Old West villages and uprooted their buildings to bring to his ghost town to make it as authentic and as real as possible. In fact, many of these buildings are still around today. Knott's humor also showed in the ghost town, with the Old Trails Hotel having a G hastily placed on it to be now named the Gold Trails Hotel in reference to the gold rush in the 1840s. And behind the Gold Trails Hotel was a picture gallery. That's right, purposely spelled wrong, as the scenery that most of the pictures would be taking place in would be similar to a saloon or a bar. Inside the picture gallery near the spittoon was a sign that has been captured in many souvenir photographs that says, "Spit on the ceiling, anybody can spit on the floor." Apologies for the bad Western accent. Anyways, despite the ghost town being filled with already so much to do and see and enjoy, Knott felt like there was just something missing. And that's when he came to the conclusion that that one thing missing was a railroad. And that's when Knott heard about the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad. The expansion of automobile travel in the late 1940s and early 50s had a dramatic effect on the regional narrow gauge railroad, and company officials were looking to sell it. In late 1951, Knott went ahead and bought 2 of their steam trains, number 340, known as the Green River, and number 409, formerly known as the Red Cliff. Knott would go on to strip the names from both of these trains and leave them as number 340 and number 41, as he decided he didn't like number 409 for some reason. Because the Colorado Railroad was a narrow gauge type, Knott's purchases had to be shipped out west on flatbed rail cars at the hefty price tag of $25,000, which in 1951 is no joke. Still, Knott was determined to have his railroad. After all the trouble that Knott had to go through to get this railroad, he would finally get it built. Service would begin that November, and the railroad would formally open to the public on January 12, 1952. The layout of the track would be fairly simple, as it would just be a 5/8 mile loop around Ghost Town. While the steam engine and passenger cars are the railroad's centerpiece, Knott's also frequently runs the Galloping Goose, a diesel engine that looks more like an old school bus. It was used for lighter work on the Rio Grande Railroad, such as shuttling commuters and carrying mail. The Galloping Goose, however, doesn't necessarily fit into the oldest theme park train conversation, as it wasn't built until 1930. As for the passenger cars, the Knott's collection included 2 specialty cars, the Edna and the Durango. The Edna was the private car used by Otto Mears, the president of one of the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad's subsidiaries. The car, restored by Knott's crew, was designed for Mears to travel in comfort. It sports a full kitchen, including a bunk above the prep area that folds down so the cook could wake up in the morning and get right to work. It has a full bedroom equipped with a toilet that flushed right onto the tracks, which was a common practice at the time, believe it or not. The toilet is now wired shut, so that's not happening ever again. Edna's sister car, however, the Durango, was built in the 1880s. She's a sleek palace car with 14 swivel seats, electric lights, and heating. Now that being said, nowadays these special cars are largely kept off the main line, and they're mostly just museum pieces now. Aside from the historical nature of the railroad, one of the most popular features are the robbers who burst into the cars waving empty six-shooters and demanding money from the passengers. The bandits have been around since the very beginning. However, they're a bit too authentic back then, and some passengers actually thought it was real, and they decided to fight with the bandits to stop them from robbing them. It's rumored that one robber had to take 11 days off because of injuries over his first few years after absorbing punches and wildly flung purses from passengers on the train. Millions of people every year come to Knott's Berry Farm to ride the Ghost Town and Calico Railroad and get an experience of what it was like riding on an old Western steam locomotive. I mean, heck, it got so popular that even President Richard Nixon was there. Isn't that cool? And no, there actually was someone legitimately cool who showed up to Knott's Berry Farm, and that was Western legend John Wayne.
We'll all calm down.
Boss, he's just a little excited.
I know. I'm gonna use good judgment. I haven't lost my temper in 40 years. But Pilgrim, you caused a lot of trouble this morning. Might have got somebody killed. And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. The hell I won't.
In 1997, Knott's Berry Farm would be purchased by Cedar Fair for a price tag of $300 million. And ever since then, Cedar Fair has been very kind to the park's railroad. In 2016, Cedar Fair rebuilt the number 340 steam locomotive, and now it's in tip-top shape after being in operation for over 120 years. And Cedar Fair would do one other thing just 4 years earlier for the railroad, and that would be to give a name to number 41. At first, the thought of giving a name to one of these legendary steam trains when they've just been known by their number for so many years seems outrageous. But the name they decided to give it was W. Knott, after Walter Knott, the founder and the innovator behind the first theme park trains.
Plans for the future of Knott's Berry Farm. Do you have any definite plans for it?
Well, all through the years, I've never made plans for a long ways ahead. And sometimes when I did plan something for several years ahead, as conditions changed, well, sometimes those plans were never used because under new and developing conditions, you needed some other plan when the time actually came that you could do the improvement. So I think I'm perfectly willing to leave the long-range planning to the children and let them plan it as conditions warrant at the time.
And of course, that is one, in my opinion, one of the features of you and your life and your ideas that has made this the success that it is.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.